Project plan. A project plan is a document that describes how a project will be executed, monitored, and controlled. It is created by the project manager and is used to communicate the project's goals, objectives, and scope to the project team and stakeholders. A project plan typically includes the following elements: project goals and objectives. The project plan should clearly define the project's goals and objectives. These should be SMART goals, which are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. Project scope. The project plan should define the scope of the project. This includes the work that will be done, the deliverables that will be produced, and the project's boundaries. Project schedule. The project plan should include a project schedule, which is a timeline for completing the project. The schedule should be realistic and achievable, and it should take into account the project's dependencies and constraints. Project budget. The project plan should include a project budget, which is a financial plan for the project. The budget should be realistic and achievable, and it should take into account the project's costs. Project risks. The project plan should identify and assess the project's risks. Risks are events or conditions that could impact the project's success. The project plan should include a plan for mitigating these risks. Resources. Project resources are anything that is necessary for the project to be completed, including people, equipment, facilities, information, materials, and financial capital. Project communication plan. The project plan should include a communication plan, which is a plan for how the project team and stakeholders will communicate with each other. The communication plan should specify the frequency and format of communication, as well as the roles and responsibilities of the project team and stakeholders. A project plan is an essential tool for project managers. It helps to ensure that the project is executed effectively and efficiently, and it helps to mitigate the risk of project failure. Here are some tips for creating a project plan. Start by defining the project's goals and objectives. What do you want to achieve with this project? Identify the project's scope. What work will be done? What are the deliverables? Create a project schedule. When will the work be done? What are the dependencies and constraints? Create a project budget. How much will the project cost? Identify and assess the project's risks. What could go wrong? What can you do to mitigate these risks? Create a communication plan. How will you communicate with the project team and stakeholders? Get input from the project team and stakeholders. The project plan should be a collaborative effort. Review and update the project plan regularly. The project plan is a living document. It should be reviewed and updated as needed throughout the project. By following these tips, you can create a project plan that will help you to successfully execute your project. Project goals and objectives. The project plan should clearly define the project's goals and objectives. These should be SMART goals, which are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. Specific goals are those that are clearly defined and have a specific outcome in mind. For example, rather than saying I want to increase sales, a specific goal might be I want to increase sales by 10% in the next quarter. Measurable goals are those that can be quantified and tracked. For example, rather than saying I want to improve customer satisfaction, a measurable goal might be I want to reduce the number of customer complaints by 50% in the next month. Attainable goals are those that are realistic and achievable given the project's resources and constraints. For example, rather than saying I want to launch a new product in the next week, an attainable goal might be I want to complete the product development phase in the next month. Relevant goals are those that are aligned with the project's overall objectives. For example, rather than saying I want to win an award for best marketing campaign, a relevant goal might be I want to increase brand awareness by 20% in the next quarter. Time-bound goals have a specific deadline by which they must be met. For example, rather than saying I want to improve employee morale, a time-bound goal might be I want to conduct a company-wide survey on employee morale by the end of the month. By setting SMART goals, project managers can ensure that their projects are on track to achieve their desired outcomes. Here are some additional tips for setting SMART goals. Get input from stakeholders. When setting goals, it is important to get input from stakeholders, such as customers, employees, and managers. This will help to ensure that the goals are relevant and achievable. Break down large goals into smaller, more manageable tasks. Large goals can be daunting and difficult to achieve. By breaking them down into smaller, more manageable tasks, they become more achievable. Be flexible. Things don't always go according to plan. Be prepared to adjust your goals as needed. Set SMART goals that will help you achieve success in your projects. 3 real-life examples of SMART goals. 1. Specific. Increase website traffic by 10% in 6 months. Measurable. Track website traffic using Google Analytics. Attainable. The company has a strong marketing team and a budget for paid advertising. Relevant. Increasing website traffic will help the company generate more leads and sales. Time-bound. The goal is to increase traffic by 10% in 6 months. 2. Specific. Develop a new product that generates $1 million in revenue in the first year. Measurable. Track product sales using the company's CRM system. Attainable. The company has a team of experienced product developers and a strong sales team. Relevant. The new product is a new market for the company and has the potential to generate significant revenue. Time-bound. The goal is to generate $1 million in revenue in the first year. 3. Specific. Reduce customer churn by 5% in 12 months. Measurable. Track customer churn using the company's CRM system. Attainable. The company has a strong customer service team and a process for identifying and resolving customer issues. Relevant. Reducing customer churn will help the company retain more customers and generate more revenue. Time-bound. The goal is to reduce customer churn by 5% in 12 months. These are just a few examples of SMART goals. When setting goals for your project, it is important to make sure that they are specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. This will help you to stay on track and achieve your goals. Project scope. Project scope is the work that needs to be done to complete a project. It includes the following. Work, the tasks that need to be completed in order to deliver the project's deliverables. Deliverables, the products or services that will be produced as a result of the project. Boundaries, the limits of the project, such as the start and end dates, the budget, and the resources that are available. The project scope should be defined as early as possible in the project planning process. This will help to ensure that the project is well defined and that everyone involved in the project is on the same page. There are a few different ways to define the project scope. One way is to create a scope statement. A scope statement is a document that describes the project's goals, deliverables, and boundaries. Another way to define the project scope is to create a work breakdown structure, WBS. A WBS is a hierarchical decomposition of the project work into smaller, more manageable tasks. Once the project scope is defined, it is important to communicate it to all stakeholders. This will help to ensure that everyone understands what is included in the project and what is not. It is also important to note that the project scope is not set in stone. It may need to be adjusted as the project progresses. This is why it is important to have a process in place for managing scope changes. Here are some tips for defining project scope. Get input from stakeholders. When defining the project scope, it is important to get input from stakeholders, such as customers, employees, and managers. This will help to ensure that the scope is complete and accurate. Be realistic. The project scope should be realistic and achievable given the project's resources and constraints. Be flexible. Things don't always go according to plan. Be prepared to adjust the project scope as needed. By following these tips, you can define the project scope in a way that will help your project succeed. 3 real-life examples of project scope. Building a house. The project scope for building a house would include the following. The type of house to be built, e.g., single family, multifamily, etc. The size of the house. The materials to be used. The location of the house. The features of the house, e.g., number of bedrooms, bathrooms, etc. The timeline for completion. The budget for the project. Developing a new software product. The project scope for developing a new software product would include the following. The requirements for the software product. The features of the software product. The user interface for the software product. The database for the software product. The testing plan for the software product. The deployment plan for the software product. The budget for the project. Launching a new marketing campaign. The project scope for launching a new marketing campaign would include the following. The target audience for the campaign. The goals of the campaign. The messaging for the campaign. The creative assets for the campaign. The media channels for the campaign. The measurement plan for the campaign. The budget for the project. In each of these examples, the project scope defines the work that will be done, the deliverables that will be produced, and the project's boundaries. This information is essential for ensuring that the project is successful. Here are some additional tips for defining the project scope. Get input from all stakeholders. The project scope should be defined in collaboration with all stakeholders, including the project manager, the client, and the project team. This will help to ensure that everyone is on the same page and that the scope is realistic and achievable. Be as specific as possible. The project scope should be as specific as possible. This will help to avoid any misunderstandings or scope creep. Be flexible. The project scope is not set in stone. It may need to be adjusted as the project progresses. However, it is important to keep the scope changes to a minimum to avoid delays and cost overruns. Project schedule. The project plan should include a project schedule, which is a timeline for completing the project. The schedule should be realistic and achievable, and it should take into account the project's dependencies and constraints. Here are some additional details about project schedules. A project schedule is a timeline for completing the project. It is a critical component of any project plan, as it helps to ensure that the project is completed on time and within budget. The schedule should be realistic and achievable. It is important to factor in all of the tasks that need to be completed, as well as the time it will take to complete each task. The schedule should take into account the project's dependencies and constraints. Dependencies are tasks that must be completed before other tasks can begin. Constraints are factors that limit the project's scope, time, or budget. There are a number of different tools and techniques that can be used to create project schedules. Some of the most common tools include Gantt charts. Gantt charts are a graphical way of displaying a project schedule. They show the tasks that need to be completed, as well as the start and finish dates for each task. Critical Path Method, CPM. CPM is a mathematical technique that can be used to identify the longest path through a project schedule. This path is known as the critical path, and any delays on this path will delay the entire project. Program Evaluation and Review Technique, PERT. PERT is a similar technique to CPM, but it allows for more uncertainty in the project schedule. This makes it a more realistic tool for projects with a high degree of uncertainty. Once the project schedule has been created, it is important to track its progress and make adjustments as needed. This will help to ensure that the project stays on track and is completed on time and within budget. Here are some additional tips for creating and managing project schedules. Break down the project into smaller tasks. This will make it easier to create a realistic and achievable schedule. Estimate the time it will take to complete each task. This can be done by using historical data, expert judgment, or a combination of both. Identify the project's dependencies and constraints. This will help to ensure that the schedule is realistic and achievable. Create a buffer for unexpected delays. This will help to reduce the risk of the project falling behind schedule. Track the project's progress and make adjustments as needed. This will help to ensure that the project stays on track and is completed on time and within budget. Gantt chart. A Gantt chart is a type of bar chart that illustrates a project schedule. It is typically used to track the progress of a project by showing the start and end dates of each task, as well as the dependencies between tasks. To create a Gantt chart, you will need to identify the tasks that need to be completed in your project. Estimate the duration of each task. Determine the dependencies between tasks. Create a timeline for your project. Add the tasks to your Gantt chart. Format your Gantt chart to make it easy to read. Here are some of the benefits of using a Gantt chart. Improved visibility. A Gantt chart can help you visualize the project schedule and identify any potential problems early on. Increased efficiency. A Gantt chart can help you track the progress of your project and make sure that tasks are completed on time. Improved communication. A Gantt chart can help you communicate the project schedule to stakeholders and keep them up to date on your progress. Here are some of the tools that you can use to create a Gantt chart. Microsoft Excel. Microsoft Excel has a built-in Gantt chart feature that you can use to create a basic Gantt chart. Microsoft Project. Microsoft Project is a more comprehensive project management software that includes a Gantt chart feature. Gantt Project. Gantt Project is a free and open source project management software that includes a Gantt chart feature. Rike. Rike is a cloud-based project management software that includes a Gantt chart feature. No matter which tool you choose, make sure that it is easy to use and that it meets your specific needs. Here are some tips for creating an effective Gantt chart. Keep it simple. A Gantt chart should be easy to read and understand. Avoid using too much data or complex formatting. Use clear labels. Label each task and its start and end dates clearly. Use colors. Use colors to differentiate between different tasks or groups of tasks. Use filters. Use filters to show or hide specific tasks or groups of tasks. Update your Gantt chart regularly. As your project progresses, update your Gantt chart to reflect the latest changes. This will help you stay on track and identify any potential problems early on. Steps on how to create a detailed Gantt chart. Identify the tasks that need to be completed in your project. Break down your project into smaller, more manageable tasks. This will make it easier to estimate the duration of each task and to identify the dependencies between tasks. Estimate the duration of each task. Estimate how long it will take to complete each task. This can be done by considering the complexity of the task. the resources that are available, and the experience of the team members who will be working on the task. Determine the dependencies between tasks. Some tasks may have to be completed before other tasks can begin. For example, you cannot start building a house until you have purchased the land. Identify these dependencies and make sure that they are reflected in your Gantt chart. Create a timeline for your project. Once you know the duration of each task and the dependencies between tasks, you can create a timeline for your project. This will show the start and end dates for each task. Add the tasks to your Gantt chart. Once you have created a timeline, you can add the tasks to your Gantt chart. This can be done manually or using a project management software tool. Format your Gantt chart to make it easy to read. Once you have added the tasks to your Gantt chart, you can format it to make it easy to read. This includes adding labels, colors, and filters. Here are some additional tips for creating a detailed Gantt chart. Use a project management software tool. A project management software tool can make it easier to create and manage your Gantt chart. Get input from your team members. Ask your team members for input on the tasks, durations, and dependencies. This will help you create a more accurate and realistic Gantt chart. Update your Gantt chart regularly. As your project progresses, update your Gantt chart to reflect the latest changes. This will help you stay on track and identify any potential problems early on. 3 real-life examples of Gantt charts. Software development. Gantt charts are commonly used in software development to track the progress of a project. They can be used to break down the project into smaller tasks, assign tasks to team members, and set deadlines for each task. This helps to ensure that the project stays on track and that all of the tasks are completed on time. Construction. Gantt charts are also commonly used in construction to track the progress of a project. They can be used to break down the project into smaller tasks, such as excavation, foundation work, framing, roofing, and interior finishes. This helps to ensure that the project stays on budget and that it is completed on time. Marketing. Gantt charts can also be used in marketing to track the progress of a campaign. They can be used to break down the campaign into smaller tasks, such as research, development, execution, and evaluation. This helps to ensure that the campaign is successful and that it achieves its goals. Gantt charts are a versatile tool that can be used in a variety of different industries. They are a valuable tool for project managers, as they can help to ensure that projects are completed on time, on budget, and to the required quality standards. Here are some additional benefits of using Gantt charts. Increased visibility. Gantt charts provide a clear overview of the project schedule, which helps to increase visibility and transparency for all stakeholders. Improved communication. Gantt charts can help to improve communication between team members and stakeholders by providing a common understanding of the project timeline and tasks. Enhanced collaboration. Gantt charts can help to enhance collaboration between team members by providing a way to track progress and identify potential bottlenecks. Improved decision-making. Gantt charts can help to improve decision-making by providing a way to assess the impact of changes to the project schedule. If you are involved in project management, I encourage you to consider using Gantt charts. They are a powerful tool that can help you to improve the success of your projects. Step-by-step example of how to create a Gantt chart for a marketing campaign. Define the goals of your marketing campaign. What do you hope to achieve with your campaign? Do you want to increase brand awareness, generate leads, or drive sales? Once you know your goals, you can start to break down your campaign into smaller tasks. Identify the tasks that need to be completed in order to achieve your goals. This could include things like creating marketing materials, developing a social media strategy, or running paid advertising campaigns. Estimate the time it will take to complete each task. This will help you to create a realistic timeline for your campaign. Assign tasks to team members. Make sure that each team member has clear responsibilities and deadlines. Track your progress and make adjustments as needed. As your campaign progresses, keep an eye on your progress and make adjustments to your timeline and tasks as needed. Here is an example of a Gantt chart for a marketing campaign. Task. Start date. End date. Responsible. Create marketing materials. January 1st, 2023. January 15th, 2023. Marketing Manager. Develop social media strategy. January 15th, 2023. January 22nd, 2023. Social Media Manager. Run paid advertising campaigns. January 22nd, 2023. February 1st, 2023. Advertising Manager. This is just a simple example, and your Gantt chart will likely be more complex depending on the scope of your marketing campaign. However, this should give you a good starting point for creating your own Gantt chart. Here are some additional tips for creating a Gantt chart. Use a tool that allows you to easily create and update your chart. There are many different Gantt chart tools available, both online and offline. Be as specific as possible when defining your tasks and deadlines. This will help you to create a more accurate timeline. Don't be afraid to make changes to your chart as needed. Your campaign will likely evolve as you get closer to launch, so be prepared to adjust your plans accordingly. Use your Gantt chart to track your progress and identify potential bottlenecks. This will help you to ensure that your campaign stays on track and meets its goals. Project budget. The project plan should include a project budget, which is a financial plan for the project. The budget should be realistic and achievable, and it should take into account the project's costs. A project budget is a financial plan for a project. It is used to track and manage the project's costs, and to ensure that the project stays on budget. The project budget should be realistic and achievable. It should be based on accurate estimates of the project's costs, and it should take into account the project's scope, schedule, and risks. The project budget should be flexible. The project's costs may change over time, so the budget should be able to be adjusted as needed. The project budget should be communicated to all stakeholders. This will help to ensure that everyone is aware of the project's costs, and that they are working to stay within budget. Here are some of the costs that should be included in a project budget. Labor costs. The cost of the project team's salaries, wages, and benefits. Material costs. The cost of the materials that will be used for the project. Overhead costs. The cost of indirect expenses, such as office rent, utilities, and insurance. Contingency costs. The cost of unexpected expenses, such as changes to the project scope or schedule. It is important to note that the project budget is not set in stone. It may need to be adjusted as the project progresses. However, by creating a realistic and achievable budget, you can help to ensure that your project stays on track and meets its financial goals. Here are some tips for creating a project budget. Start by defining the project's scope. What work needs to be done? Identify the project's resources. What people, materials, and equipment will be needed? Estimate the cost of each resource. How much will it cost to hire the project team, purchase the materials, and rent the equipment? Add up the costs of all the resources. This is your project budget. Review the budget with your stakeholders. Make sure everyone agrees on the costs and that they are realistic. Track the budget throughout the project. Make adjustments as needed to keep the project on track. Step-by-step example of how to create a project budget. Define the project's scope. What work needs to be done? This will help you to identify the resources that you will need and the costs associated with those resources. Identify the project's resources. What people, materials, and equipment will be needed. Once you know what resources you need, you can start to estimate their costs. Estimate the cost of each resource. How much will it cost to hire the project team, purchase the materials, and rent the equipment? You can use historical data, industry benchmarks, or expert estimates to get a rough idea of the costs. Add up the costs of all the resources. This is your project budget. Review the budget with your stakeholders. Make sure everyone agrees on the costs and that they are realistic. Track the budget throughout the project. Make adjustments as needed to keep the project on track. Here is an example of a project budget. Project. Website redesign. Budget. $10. 000. Resources. Asterisk project manager. $5. 000. Asterisk designer. $3. 000. Asterisk developer. $2. 000. Other costs. Asterisk hosting. $1. 000. Asterisk domain name. $100. Asterisk marketing. $500. Total. $10. 000. This is just a simple example, and your project budget will likely be more complex depending on the scope of your project. However, this should give you a good starting point for creating your own project budget. Here are some additional tips for creating a project budget. Use a spreadsheet or project management tool to track your budget. This will help you to keep track of your spending and make adjustments as needed. Be realistic about your costs. Don't underestimate the costs of your project. Have a contingency fund. This will help you to cover unexpected expenses. Track your spending throughout the project. This will help you to stay on budget and identify any potential problems early on. Project risks. The project plan should identify and assess the project's risks. Risks are events or conditions that could impact the project's success. The project plan should include a plan for mitigating these risks. Project risk management is the process of identifying, assessing, and mitigating risks to a project. It is an important part of project planning and execution, and it can help to ensure that projects are completed on time, on budget, and to the required quality standards. Risks can be anything that could impact the project's success, such as changes to the project scope, schedule, or budget, unexpected events, such as natural disasters or supply chain disruptions, or human errors. The first step in risk management is to identify the project's risks. This can be done by brainstorming with the project team, reviewing historical data, or using risk assessment tools. Once the risks have been identified, they need to be assessed. This involves estimating the probability of each risk occurring and the impact it would have on the project if it did occur. The final step in risk management is to develop a plan for mitigating the risks. This may involve taking steps to prevent the risk from occurring, to reduce the likelihood of it occurring, or to reduce the impact of the risk if it does occur. Here are some tips for managing project risks. Identify all potential risks. The more risks you identify, the better prepared you will be to deal with them. Assess the probability and impact of each risk. This will help you to prioritize your risks and focus your efforts on the most important ones. Develop a plan to mitigate each risk. This plan should include specific steps that you will take to prevent, reduce, or manage the risk. Monitor the risks throughout the project. As the project progresses, you may need to update your risk assessment and mitigation plan. By following these tips, you can help to ensure that your project is successful despite any risks that may arise. Here are some additional examples of project risks. Technical risks. These risks are related to the project's technical complexity. For example, the project may be using new or unproven technologies, or the project may be facing challenging technical requirements. Schedule risks. These risks are related to the project's schedule. For example, the project may be facing unrealistic deadlines, or the project may be facing unexpected delays. Cost risks. These risks are related to the project's budget. For example, the project may be facing cost overruns, or the project may be facing unexpected expenses. Resource risks. These risks are related to the project's resources. For example, the project may be facing a shortage of skilled resources, or the project may be facing unexpected turnover of key resources. Stakeholder risks. These risks are related to the project's stakeholders. For example, the project may be facing resistance from stakeholders, or the project may be facing changes in stakeholder requirements. By identifying and managing these risks, you can help to ensure that your project is successful. Examples of project risks and how they can be mitigated. Scope creep. Scope creep is when the project's scope changes or expands beyond what was originally planned. This can lead to cost overruns, schedule delays, and quality problems. To mitigate scope creep, it is important to have a clear and well-defined project scope. This can be done by creating a project charter, which is a document that defines the project's goals, objectives, scope, and deliverables. The project charter should be agreed upon by all stakeholders before the project begins. Uncertainty. Uncertainty is the risk that something will happen that is not expected. This can include things like changes in the market, changes in the regulatory environment, or natural disasters. To mitigate uncertainty, it is important to have a plan for responding to unexpected events. This plan should include things like contingency plans, risk registers, and communication plans. Human error. Human error is the risk that someone will make a mistake that could impact the project. This can include things like errors in data entry, errors in calculations, or errors in judgment. To mitigate human error, it is important to have a plan for quality assurance. This plan should include things like quality checks, reviews, and audits. It is important to note that these are just a few examples of project risks. There are many other risks that can impact a project. The key is to identify and assess the risks that are most likely to impact your project and to develop a plan for mitigating those risks. Here are some additional tips for managing project risks. Communicate with stakeholders. It is important to communicate with stakeholders about the risks that have been identified and the plan for mitigating those risks. This will help to ensure that everyone is aware of the risks and that they are on board with the plan for mitigating them. Be flexible. Things don't always go according to plan. It is important to be flexible and to be willing to adapt the plan as needed. This will help to ensure that the project remains on track despite unexpected challenges. Don't be afraid to ask for help. If you are struggling to manage the risks on your project, don't be afraid to ask for help from your team, your manager, or a project management professional. Resources. Project resources are anything that is necessary for the project to be completed, including people, equipment, facilities, information, materials, and financial capital. Different types of project resources. People. People are the most important resource for any project. They are the ones who will do the work, make decisions, and solve problems. It is important to have the right people with the right skills and experience on your team. Equipment. Equipment is another important resource for many projects. This can include things like computers, tools, and machinery. It is important to have the right equipment available to complete the project on time and within budget. Facilities. Facilities are the physical spaces where the project will be completed. This can include things like offices, warehouses, and factories. It is important to have the right facilities available to accommodate the project team and to store materials and equipment. Information. Information is another important resource for many projects. This can include things like data, reports, and plans. It is important to have the right information available to make decisions and to complete the project on time and within budget. Materials. Materials are the physical objects that will be used to create the project's deliverables. This can include things like raw materials, parts, and components. It is important to have the right materials available to complete the project on time and within budget. Financial capital. Financial capital is the money that is needed to fund the project. This can include things like salaries, expenses, and equipment costs. It is important to have enough financial capital available to complete the project on time and within budget. In addition to these traditional resources, there are also a number of other resources that can be important for some. These can include things like expertise. Expertise can be in the form of knowledge, skills, or experience. It can be obtained from internal or external resources. Time. Time is a valuable resource that should be managed carefully. It is important to set realistic deadlines and to track progress against those deadlines. Communication. Communication is essential for any project. It is important to communicate effectively with the project team, stakeholders, and other interested parties. Risk management. Risk management is the process of identifying, assessing, and mitigating risks to the project. It is important to have a plan in place to deal with unexpected events. By understanding the different types of project resources, you can better manage them and ensure that your project is successful. Examples of project resources. Building a house. This project would require a variety of resources, including people, construction workers, architects, engineers, equipment, bulldozers, hammers, nails, materials, wood, bricks, cement, and financial capital. Launching a new product. This project would require a variety of resources, including people, marketing experts, sales representatives, engineers, equipment, computers, software, testing equipment, materials, prototypes, marketing materials, and financial capital. Organizing a conference. This project would require a variety of resources, including people, conference organizers, speakers, volunteers, equipment, sound system, microphones, projectors, materials, brochures, flyers, name tags, and financial capital. It is important to note that these are just a few examples of project resources. The specific resources that are needed for a project will vary depending on the nature of the project. Here are some additional tips for managing project resources. Identify the resources that are needed for the project. This includes both tangible resources, such as people, equipment, and materials, and intangible resources, such as expertise, time, and communication. Estimate the amount of resources that will be needed. This will help you to create a realistic budget and timeline for the project. Obtain the necessary resources. This may involve hiring people, purchasing equipment, or obtaining materials. Manage the resources effectively. This includes using the resources efficiently, monitoring the use of resources, and taking steps to conserve resources when necessary. By understanding the different types of project resources and by managing them effectively, you can increase the chances of your project being successful. Real-life example of project resources for an online course. People. The most important resource for an online course is the instructor. The instructor needs to have the knowledge, skills, and experience to teach the course material. The instructor also needs to be able to communicate effectively with students and to provide support. Equipment. Online courses require a variety of equipment, including computers, software, and recording devices. The equipment needs to be able to support the course's format and delivery method. Materials. Online courses require a variety of materials, including course content, assessments, and support materials. The materials need to be accessible to students and need to be aligned with the course's objectives. It is important to note that these are just a few examples of project resources for an online course. The specific resources that are needed for an online course will vary depending on the nature of the course. Here are some additional tips for managing project resources for an online course. Identify the resources that are needed for the course. This includes both tangible resources, such as people, equipment, and materials, and intangible resources, such as expertise, time, and communication. Estimate the amount of resources that will be needed. This will help you to create a realistic budget and timeline for the course. Obtain the necessary resources. This may involve hiring people, purchasing equipment, or obtaining materials. Manage the resources effectively. This includes using the resources efficiently, monitoring the use of resources, and taking steps to conserve resources when necessary. By understanding the different types of project resources and by managing them effectively, you can increase the chances of your online course being successful. Here are some additional examples of project resources that may be needed for an online course. Facility. If the course will be recorded in a physical location, a facility will be needed. Internet access. Students will need access to the internet in order to access the course materials and to participate in the course. Project communication plan. A project communication plan is a document that outlines how the project team and stakeholders will communicate with each other. The plan should specify the frequency and format of communication, as well as the roles and responsibilities of the project team and stakeholders. A good communication plan can help to improve project visibility and transparency by ensuring that everyone involved in the project has access to the same information. A communication plan can help to keep everyone on the same page and avoid surprises. Reduce project risks by identifying and communicating potential risks early on. A communication plan can help to mitigate those risks and prevent them from becoming problems. Improve project efficiency by streamlining communication. A communication plan can help to save time and resources. Increase project satisfaction by keeping stakeholders informed and engaged. A communication plan can help to increase their satisfaction with the project. Here are some key elements of a project communication plan. Frequency. How often will communication occur? Will there be daily, weekly, monthly, or ad hoc meetings? Format. What format will communication take? Will it be face-to-face meetings, email, phone calls, video conferencing, or a combination of these? Roles and responsibilities. Who will be responsible for communicating what? Will the project manager be responsible for communicating with stakeholders? Will the team members be responsible for communicating with each other? It is important to tailor the communication plan to the specific needs of the project. However, by following these general guidelines, you can create a communication plan that will help to ensure the success of your project. Here are some additional tips for creating a project communication plan. Get input from all stakeholders. The communication plan should be a collaborative effort between the project team and stakeholders. By getting input from everyone involved, you can ensure that the plan meets the needs of everyone. Be clear and concise. The communication plan should be easy to understand and follow. Avoid using jargon or technical language that may confuse stakeholders. Be flexible. Things don't always go according to plan. Be prepared to adapt the communication plan as needed. Communicate the plan. Once the communication plan is created, it is important to communicate it to everyone involved in the project. This will help to ensure that everyone knows what to expect and how to communicate effectively. By following these tips, you can create a project communication plan that will help to ensure the success of your project. Examples of project communication plan. Software development project. A software development project might have a communication plan that includes weekly status meetings, bi-weekly sprint reviews, and monthly demo days. The project manager would be responsible for sending out meeting agendas and minutes, and for keeping stakeholders updated on the project's progress. Construction project. A construction project might have a communication plan that includes daily morning huddles, weekly progress meetings, and monthly stakeholder meetings. The project manager would be responsible for keeping the project team updated on the schedule, budget, and scope of the project, and for communicating with the project's stakeholders to get their input and approval. Marketing campaign. A marketing campaign might have a communication plan that includes weekly status meetings, monthly reports, and quarterly reviews. The project manager would be responsible for keeping the marketing team updated on the campaign's progress, and for communicating with the campaign stakeholders to get their feedback and approval. These are just a few examples of how project communication plans can be used in different types of projects. The specific details of a project communication plan will vary depending on the specific project, but the basic principles are the same. A well-written project communication plan can help to ensure that all stakeholders are kept informed and that the project stays on track. Here are some additional tips for creating an effective project communication plan. Identify your stakeholders. The first step in creating a project communication plan is to identify your stakeholders. This includes anyone who is involved in the project or who will be affected by the project's outcome. Define your communication goals. Once you have identified your stakeholders, you need to define your communication goals. What do you want to achieve by communicating with your stakeholders? Choose the right communication methods. There are many different ways to communicate with stakeholders. You need to choose the communication methods that are most effective for your project and for your stakeholders. Create a communication schedule. Once you have chosen your communication methods, you need to create a communication schedule. This will help to ensure that you are communicating with your stakeholders on a regular basis. Track your communication efforts. It is important to track your communication efforts so that you can see how effective your communication plan is. This will help you to make adjustments to your plan as needed. Create an effective project communication plan that will help you to keep your stakeholders informed and your project on track. Project implementation. Project implementation is the process of putting a project plan into action. It is the third stage of the 4 project management stages, including project kickoff, planning, implementation, and completion. The goal of project implementation is to deliver the project's objectives within the agreed upon scope, budget, and timeline. To achieve this goal, the project manager must coordinate the project team. The project manager is responsible for coordinating the project team and ensuring that everyone is working towards the same goal. This includes assigning tasks, setting deadlines, and resolving conflicts. Manage the project budget. The project manager is responsible for managing the project budget and ensuring that costs do not exceed the agreed upon amount. This includes tracking expenses, making adjustments as needed, and reporting to the project sponsor. Monitor the project schedule. The project manager is responsible for monitoring the project schedule and ensuring that the project stays on track. This includes tracking progress, identifying potential delays, and taking corrective action as needed. Communicate with stakeholders. The project manager is responsible for communicating with stakeholders throughout the project life cycle. This includes keeping stakeholders informed of the project's progress, addressing concerns, and obtaining approvals. Project implementation can be a challenging process, but it is essential for delivering a successful project. By following the steps outlined above, the project manager can increase the chances of success. Here are some additional tips for successful project implementation. Get buy-in from stakeholders. It is important to get buy-in from stakeholders early in the project. This will help to ensure that everyone is on the same page and that there is support for the project's objectives. Break down the project into smaller tasks. Breaking down the project into smaller tasks can make it easier to manage and track progress. Use project management tools. There are a number of project management tools that can help to make project implementation easier. These tools can help to track progress, manage costs, and communicate with stakeholders. Be flexible. Things don't always go according to plan. So it is important to be flexible and be willing to make adjustments as needed. Celebrate successes. It is important to celebrate successes along the way. This will help to keep the team motivated and engaged. Examples of project implementation. Launching a new product. When a company launches a new product, it needs to implement a plan to get the product into the hands of customers. This plan might include activities such as developing a marketing campaign, creating a sales strategy, and building relationships with retailers. Implementing a new software system. When a company implements a new software system, it needs to implement a plan to train employees on how to use the system. This plan might include activities such as creating training materials, providing hands-on training, and offering support to employees who are struggling to learn the system. Opening a new store. When a company opens a new store, it needs to implement a plan to get the store up and running. This plan might include activities such as hiring and training staff, stocking the store with inventory, and marketing the store to potential customers. These are just a few examples of how project implementation can be used in different types of projects. By implementing a project plan, project managers can help to ensure that projects are completed on time, within budget, and to the required quality standards. Here are some additional tips for implementing projects. Get buy-in from stakeholders. It is important to get buy-in from all stakeholders involved in the project before implementing the project plan. This will help to ensure that everyone is committed to the project and that there is no resistance to change. Communicate effectively. It is important to communicate effectively with all stakeholders throughout the implementation process. This will help to keep everyone informed of the project's progress and to address any issues that may arise. Be flexible. Things don't always go according to plan. So it is important to be flexible and adaptable when implementing projects. This will help to ensure that the project can still be successful even if there are unexpected challenges.